Welcome everyone to the final Rockville 11 televised 2019 Vote by Mail Election Candidate Forum, hosted by the Twinbrook Village in association with Twinbrook Community Association, moderated by Twinbrook resident and village member Angela Fox. Let's get into it.
Good evening. I'm Ann Goodman, president of Twinbrook Village, a new 501c3 in Rockville that is dedicated to facilitating a sense of community and in helping neighbors help neighbors. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Twinbrook Village and in association with the Twinbrook Community Association, known to most of you as TCA. You can get more information about both of our organizations by emailing us at twinbrookvillage@gmail.com or twinbrook.president@gmail.com. And for those of you here in the room tonight, we have some information on our organizations outside the door. You can check that out. We want to make sure that our community is informed about this historic vote by mail election. That's why TCA gave each candidate an opportunity to answer a written questionnaire prior to tonight's forum. You can see the responses by accessing the TCA website at twinbrookcommunity.org and clicking on the 2019 City of Rockville Municipal Election icon. Neither Twinbrook Village nor TCA endorses candidates. TCA gathered this information to help you make an informed decision when you cast your ballot. Remember, Rockville, it is your city, your voice. Please vote. And now, without further ado, tonight's moderator is a conflict resolution specialist for the United States Department of Agriculture and is also a licensed attorney and an advocate for people with disabilities. Please welcome Twinbrook resident and village member Angela Fox.
Thank you, Ann. There's a total of 15 candidates in this year's vote by mail election. 13 are running for council and 2 are running for mayor. At this time, I would like to explain tonight's forum format. We have split the council candidates into 2 groups and seated them in alphabetical order. The first group will be 6 candidates, is seated in front of you now, and the second group will be 6 council candidates will follow. After that, we'll hear from the 2 male candidates. We ask that the candidates, all candidates, please speak loudly for the room. Each council candidate will be allowed a 1-minute statement. Each group of council candidates will then have 2 questions. These questions will be predetermined by the Twinbrook Village and Twinbrook Community Association members. Each council candidate will then have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Candidates will also answer questions according to the number received from a random drawing conducted prior to this forum. So please listen for your name when I announce it. Questions will not be repeated for each individual candidate. And finally, council candidates will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement. We have a timekeeper who will notify the candidates when the 15 seconds is left, and then when time is run out by holding a red stop sign that says stop. The candidate must then immediately finish the sentence. No run-on sentences, please. We will have 3-minute break between council groups. Candidates will also ask that you enter and exit during the break in a timely fashion. Audience, we're going to need your help too. So as you can imagine, please no applause and please turn off your cell phone or at least make them vibrate only. Thank you. Now, let's introduce the first group of council candidates. Again, I ask the audience to please not applause. We're going to start in alphabetical order. Monique Ashton, Cynthia Cote Griffiths, Burl Feinberg, Richard Godfrey, James Hendrick, and Quan Lee. Thank you. All right. Now for the first question. As we said, there has been predetermined drawing. So the first person will be Cynthia Cote Griffiths. The question is? Opening statements, thank you. My bad. No, opening statements in the order. Okay. Cynthia Cote Griffiths, please.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Cote Griffiths. When I was at the first Staying in Place Community Forum that later developed into the Villages program, everyone had a strong desire for a closer, more connected community, and everyone was passionate about staying in Rockville. We had the same desire when we moved to Rockville. At the time, I was the program manager for Montgomery Housing Partnership, and the mayor and council had allowed us to convert an old motel into a mixed-income community in a city park. And when my husband and I wanted a place to live, we moved to Rockville. When we closed on our first house in Twinbrook, we picked up a pizza and we went to it. It was empty. We were so excited. We sat on the kitchen floor and we ate the pizza and we loved it because we were in our own home. I want our adult kids and our seniors to know that feeling and continue to be able to stay in Rockville because it's affordable whether to rent or own. I'm a proven advocate for pedestrian safety. I've been in appointed positions in City Hall. I'm a trusted news source and I'm ready to represent all of Rockville.
Burl Feinberg.
Twinbrook is a great example of a small-town neighborhood close to big city attractions. Most of us want the same thing: safe neighborhoods, excellent schools, job opportunities, and a community with economic vitality. But we must deal with important issues. Housing is too expensive. We need to adopt my proposal to give tax relief to first-time home buyers and expand the senior property tax credit. We need to have managed housing development. We cannot approve new developments that will exceed the capacity of our schools to provide an excellent educational experience. Nothing over 120% capacity. Pedestrian and bicyclist safety is critical. We must adopt a Vision Zero action plan. I look forward to listening to your concerns and priorities and figuring out together how we can create a better Rockville. Thank you.
Thank you. Quan Lee.
Hello, Twinbrook. My name is Quan Lee. I'm an attorney with Social Security Administration, where I prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. Before that, I protected our country's children from abandonment, abuse, and neglect. I will do everything I can to ensure that Rockville is a city of inclusion. To all people of goodwill who wish to make Rockville their home. We should not be placing one group of people over the other, but rather, as leaders, we should be helping them find consensus through discussion and collaboration. It should not be about us versus them, because that is not inclusion. There's only one Rockville, and I will do my best to represent everyone.
Thank you. James Hendrick.
Good evening, everybody. I'm really happy to be here tonight. I wanted to say thank you to the Twinbrook Community Association and the Twinbrook Village, not only for hosting this event, but also for providing childcare. I am a father of two. I have a young family. It's very important to allow folks to be able to participate, to have childcare at events like this. I'm really glad that they did that tonight. So I'm also glad to be here because this is where the neighborhood I live in. This is where I got my start in Rockville civic politics. A group of us got together and we decided that we really needed to revitalize the Twinbrook Community Association. So we organized, we got together, and we took an organization that had been a little moribund and a little slow and really tried to bring it up and really tried to get people involved, really tried to get a lot of folks out to the meetings. We've had meetings on public safety, street repair, really fascinating things like stormwater management. But I'm really happy to be here tonight. I'm really glad that I got an opportunity as part of the TCA to revitalize that organization and to make our neighborhood a priority and not an afterthought. So I want to say thank you for letting me be here tonight, and we'll answer some questions.
Thank you. Richard Godfrey.
Good evening, Twinbrook residents and my Twinbrook neighbors. My name is Richard Godfrey. I want to thank you for coming out tonight, and also would personally like to thank the Twinbrook Village and TCA for hosting this debate tonight. I'm asking you to leverage your vote by mail for Richard Godfrey. As a longtime resident and a certified public accountant practicing in the city of Rockville for over 29 years, I will bring my leadership, experience, and vision to the council. Also, I am a proven community activist and I'm well acquainted with the issues of our city. I'm not a newcomer to Rockville city politics. If elected, I intend to add value and quality of life to Rockville by 1, preserving our parks, especially Redgate Park. 2, if the state decides to widen I-270, I'll be advocating against eminent domain for Rockville property owners. 3, create a sustainable plan to address future growth and increase traffic. To learn more about me, please visit my website, www.votegodfrey.com.
Thank you. Okay, now we're ready for the questions, since we jumped the gun a little bit. Monique? Oh, Monique Ashton, I apologize.
No, that's okay, no worries. Thank you so much for organizing this today. Good evening, my name is Monique Ashton. I seek your vote by November 5th. I've served as a senior vice president and I've helped to support and grow businesses. I hope to bring that kind of strategic thinking to our city council, as well as supporting economic growth in our city. I have been a tireless community advocate. I've worked really hard to make sure that we're representing our schools in Rockville. I've supported local businesses, led large community forums, and I recently served on an adequate public facilities work group, as well as the Pedestrian Advocacy Committee. I've lived in East and West Rockville for about 15 years, and I want to help ensure that we foster a vibrant and sustainable future for all of Rockville. I will support strong schools and neighborhood centers, smart growth, inclusive community engagement. Rockville's diverse, we need to be more inclusive. Services for our communities, economic growth, and environment and safety. I was in our Twinbrook schools recently and saw that there were children learning on the floors. And I will be your advocate to make sure that we're going throughout the community looking at pedestrian safety. And I also wanted to honor the life that was impacted this week by pedestrian safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Do we have everybody? All right. Now, for the first question, I will read it out loud, and then we'll go by the same order. The first question is, what is your reaction to developers being allowed pay in lieu to obtain large reduction in requirement for tree cover? Okay, number 1, Cynthia Goldie-Griffiths, please.
I felt that when we did it for Twinbrook Quarter, it allowed for a larger green community space, acres of green space. So it was a tough trade-off, but the wider sidewalks so that we can comfortably walk and they can have that kind of cafe feeling, and we could also fit in the bike lanes and all of the other amenities that we wanted led us to that choice. I don't like to see that. I have to say it's been a hot summer. There have been way over 50 days that it was over 90 degrees when I was out canvassing. And I started to look for neighborhoods that had that better tree cover because it was so hot and we were sweating so much out there every single afternoon and every weekend. So I appreciate that tree cover, and I think for the most part in the streets we want that tree cover and we have that plan and we guard them very, very carefully. There is a survey, if you don't know it, every single street tree is accounted for. They keep records on it, they know exactly where they are. You can't take them down, they're controlled by the city, and I completely support that. But for small trade-offs, in order to get some more public space and maybe a playground, we had to make a little bit of a trade-off with the trees, and I agree with that in that case.
Thank you. Bill Feinberg?
Thank you very much. I think it's always a question of how much flexibility and what is the magnitude and what is the trade-off that you are missing. I do agree there should be some flexibility. However, we need to see what public benefit we can also manage to get at the same time. For example, perhaps a child care center in a huge development, or for example, more sidewalk and bicycle facilities to put bicycles for those who might be cycling to and from along our walkways and roadways. But we also have to consider climate change, and I do believe that the city should have a climate change policy and establish goals. This may be in conflict with what a developer may be asking for an exemption or reduction in the tree canopy, but we need to consider both. We have to be good stewards of the land that we are given, and that will be here for not only us, but for generations to follow. In addition, if I were to give exemptions for a tree canopy, I would like to see where they can plant trees in other parts of the city. That has also been part of the idea. If they can't plant sufficient trees on on development A, then where else in the city might you be able to plant additional trees so that the overall tree canopy is maintained? Thank you.
Thank you. Quan Lee?
Yes, I agree that we need to be aware of the environment, and I think that making exceptions we need to keep it balanced. And the reason why many of us come to the city of Rockville is the balance between the green space, residential, and commercial space. Providing exception for developers and any development needs to be discussed with the community and to determine what the best interest of the community and what the community needs.
Thank you. James Hendrick?
Yes, retaining the tree cover is important. It's an important part of our neighborhoods all throughout the city in Twinbrook and elsewhere. We do need flexibility, and I think the flexibility is important because flexibility allows you to leverage things out of developers. I've worked myself in economic development for a long time, traveling all the way around the country, working with cities and counties just like Rockville. The reason you have flexibility is to leverage other concessions out of the developer, and if you're going to allow a tree cover exemption, you better get something for it. And so that's what I want to do. And also, when we talk about the tree cover, we need to retain the canopy. It's good for a lot of reasons, environmental and quality of life. But we also need to make sure that we protect some of the trees that we have in the city that are very special. For example, Maryland's largest crabapple tree is just a couple of blocks that direction. I suggest everybody on your way out tonight go check it out. But we need to retain things like that and make sure that we have those, retain those in the city. And so when we go through and we have tree cover exemptions and things like that, we need to make sure that we get something for it for any exemption that we have.
Thank you. Okay, got Monique?
Yes, I think that when we look at development, we do need some flexibility, but all of our development needs to be thoughtful and needs to think about the character of our city and what we value. And tree canopy and green space is a big part of that. If there's a need to reconsider that, I think that we should ask for other negotiations, like can they do something to make the building more green? Can they provide other amenities that will allow us to have green spaces? I also think that beyond the reduction in tree canopy, there were some other important things like reduction in parking, and so we know that was there are challenges about parking in other centers. I know that there was also some reductions or thoughts about the bike safety, and we didn't have protected lanes that were provided. We have bike showers, and I know that the bike community does really need infrastructure. So if we're going to give in on some things like that, I want to make sure that we're looking at other priorities for the city and that we're meeting them. Development should be thoughtful.
Thank you. Richard Godfrey?
At least we're not as bad as Montgomery County at Park and Rose. What they did for their tree canopy was paint a picture of a green tree on the side of a parking garage. I was fortunate enough when I was past president of TCA to advocate for the Chapman Row, the Winchester owned property, and what was negotiated was to have a park, a green space on that property so that the children who would move there would have the opportunity to play with the protection from the trains. So there were some trees that were cut down, but that new neighborhood will have a park. Also, Avalon Bay, there were some really old trees on the Avalon Bay property that were one day just cut down by the construction crew. So we need to protect our trees that have value. In King Farm, they have the old trees in King Farm that were threatened to be cut down by the commercial property right next to it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, for question number 2. How do you feel that running independently versus being a member on a slate might influence your vote as a council member? Okay. Cynthia Griffins.
I don't think it will influence my vote on any issue. I've been before the public eye for a very long time. I think publicly you've already heard the members of Team Rockville not agree with each other on certain issues. We have core principles that we have taken to heart, and we will follow through on those, and we have an excellent working relationship. They are people that I trust, and I know that you can all trust, but it's not top-led. We are completely equal, and at our meetings, we hold votes, and we to make all our decisions, just as we would if we were all on council and mayor together. I don't think that being on a slate necessarily affects your service when you're actually up there serving on mayor and council. I think it has more to do with running for public office, having that support. It's kind of like a giant endorsement. A lot of people have been getting a lot of endorsements from a lot of different people, politicians that may be in the county level. And this is an endorsement by people that are currently on council. It's an endorsement by, in our case, in Team Rockville, people who have been extremely active in the community. And it's just one more thing for you to consider when you're voting for any one of us.
Thank you. Will Feinberg?
Thank you. I have the experience of doing both. I've run on slates or teams or coalitions as well as running independently. But on each of the 2 other times that I have run, the decisions that I make when I am elected, the viewpoints that I have are my own. I have almost 3 decades of public policy analysis. I am well-schooled in independent thinking. My DNA is as a librarian in a former life, and as part of that, it's almost your credo to always give balanced information to those who come to the reference desk. So for me, this is part of my core sense of integrity. On Rockville Forward, the coalition of which I am a part, there are no preset agendas or beliefs. There is a willingness to work together as a coalition, transparent. We will discuss ideas as we have done before. I have also shown on the council, especially this past winter, that I will vote as I see an issue, and no one will ever tell me what to do. I have been known for my sense of integrity. I will say that there is a financial benefit to working together on a slate, because there are times that you can pool your resources and get your message out easier. But other than that, I am a straight arrow, and I will vote as I see fit.
Thank you. Quan Lee?
I wish everyone was an independent, in fact, but however, given the landscape and the financial advantages of being a slate, that is the reason why Rockville Forward was formed, and everyone really are independent, and that no one are vote or agreeing to every kind of issue. And hopefully moving forward in the future, Rockville will go back to where everyone is independent and there will be no slates. But going back to why I decided to run with Rockville Forward was I believe that there was a group of people who have shown great character, integrity, moral values, and they actually care about the city. And so that's why I'm currently in with Rockville Forward.
Thank you. James Hendrick?
Running with a team wouldn't affect my vote at all once I'm on the city council, but I'm running with the team that I'm running with because I think they're the 4 best other people running right now. We have a mayoral candidate that has more experience than any 3 other people running for council right now. We have a pediatrician and Navy veteran over there in David Miles, Virginia Onley. Mark's been on the city council for a while, offers institutional knowledge. Cindy's been working with the RMPTA and just about every other volunteer organization in the city for decades now, and I am also on that team. But I'm running with the team because I believe in them, because we have a set of core values and things that we want to get done, and because being on a team also helps you learn how to build consensus, how to work together, and how to trust the other people that you're going to be up on the dais with. It doesn't have any effect on how I vote on any individual issue, but I think it's a benefit for learning how to work with the people that you're going to be working with and leading the city. Thanks.
Thank you. Monique Ashton?
I think my husband will tell you that I'm very comfortable disagreeing when I feel that there's an issue that I need to stand up for. I will have an independent vote. I think that the coalition that is Rockville Forward, I'm very honored and proud to be a part of it. We don't have a litmus test to be on this coalition, but we do have to all have shared values in terms of integrity, trust, civility, and respect. And that's what I think we need to have on the council. I think your question also speaks to an issue that I think is important for Rockville to consider broadly, is running for office is extremely time-consuming and expensive. And if our city wants to attract diverse candidates, we need to do more to help support them. When I'm out canvassing, even though I'm part of Rockville Forward, I will always say they're not just two teams, they're independent candidates, because I want to be fair. I said, look at all of us and compare and do your homework. And that's the kind of thing I will do with every issue in Rockville. I will do my homework, I will work hard, I will listen, and I will be fair.
Thank you. Mr. Godfrey?
Regarding slates and teams, Ben Franklin once said, if like minds think alike, no one is thinking. My team is all of you. I'm here to advocate and represent all of you, not just 3 votes. I can stand on my own 2 feet and think on my own and can financially afford to run on my own. I can work with people across the aisle. I've created partnerships with all the presidents in every single neighborhood of the civic associations in the city of Rockville and in Montgomery County, Aspen Hill, Manor Lake, Norbeck Road, Flower Valley, when they had the issue with the bus depot. So I know how to create partnerships. I've worked and I've ran Montgomery County Council at large and developed relationships on the county council. So when we talk about the real issues, I have the connections and the relationships to make the issues that are here, like traffic, like widening I-270, can talk to everybody that's affected in the state of Maryland and our state legislators.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes part 1 of a candidate forum. Coming up next, we will have the remaining 7 council candidates on the stage. Closing statements. I keep missing those things. Excuse me. Closing statements. We're going to go in the same order.
Well, I'm Cynthia Cotty-Griffiths, and I want to be on council to keep Rockville the city we love. Throughout my life, I've stepped up to be a leader, whether it was Boy Scouts, church, or the schools. And it's no different now that both my sons are adults. Our youngest generation don't want long commutes, and they don't want to have to go to some other state and move away to get a job. We need the tech and medical jobs and the housing that they want right here. I have a strong record of public service in City Hall, and I've either given testimony or written about most of the issues in Rockville over more than a decade. One of the absolute most important things that this city can do is to keep people safe on the streets. I've successfully worked on pedestrian safety on the Traffic and Transportation Commission. We need someone like me who has a personal dedication to making sure we work with the state and the county and have 0 deaths on our street and work on transit options so we get people out of their cars and get rid of some of this traffic. One thing is certain is that no matter what our ages, people want to have a good old-fashioned sense of community in Rockville. In my volunteer and professional nonprofit work, I've devoted myself to creating that community. I've chaired the Human Services Advisory Commission for almost 6 years to make sure our caregivers and our city programs are there for our residents. With the lack of local news during this last 4 years, you may have noticed, I'm passionate about finding innovative ways to communicate with Rockville's residents to keep everyone informed, and I planned on setting out regular newsletters and experimenting with online town halls. I'm asking you to vote for me so we can restore respect in City Hall and tackle important issues in a professional and efficient manner. Let's make sure Rockville stays a safe community because anyone can go to the police when they're a victim or they witness a crime. We need to elect leaders that had and will have moral courage to protect everyone. I hope I can count on your vote.
Thank you. Bill Feinberg?
These are my priorities for the next 4 years. 1, strongly advocate for balanced growth, not unrestrained growth. New business ventures and thoughtful housing initiatives are important for Rockville's economic vitality, but excessive housing development can mean even more school overcrowding and increased traffic congestion. Density alone is not the answer. 2, promote and implement a Vision Zero pedestrian and bicycle safety action plan. 3, in collaboration with the villages, continue to champion for seniors to age in place. We must increase the cap on the city's senior property tax credit. We need enhanced senior transportation services in our neighborhoods, and we must support more funding in the Pete Santee Fund to assist seniors with minor home repairs. 4, reintroduce my proposal to provide owner-occupied residential property owners a Rockville tax credit. 5, work with the community to determine if city-sponsored early childhood education centers should be created in Twinbrook, Lincoln Park, and at the Elwood Smith Community Centers. 6, ensure that we have sustainable budgets for FY21 and beyond without a tax increase. 7, establish a multicultural welcome center for our diverse community. 8, restore civility to mayor and council deliberations. Please re-elect me, Beryl L. Feinberg, and all the Rockville Forward candidates, Mayor Bridget Newton, Monique Ashton, Quan Lee, and Susan Pittman. We pledge to listen to your concerns, work collaboratively and transparently. For further information, please go to www.berylfeinberg.com and Facebook at berylfeinberg.politician. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Quan Lee?
Thank you all. Rockville is a great city, and it's inevitable that it will become greater, but we must not be too hasty in this endeavor. Too rapid growth may benefit a few wealthy developers, but it would severely lessen the quality of life for the rest of us. I have nothing against them. Without them, we might be all living with our parents well into middle age. And as I said, I am for progress, but not at such a rapid rate that our roads, our utilities, our public transits, among many other services, could not adequately keep up. I want our schools to be among the best in the nation. I think we should be willing to spend what we need to maintain that standard, and maybe a bit more, but without causing major distress to the steward citizens who keep those schools running with their property taxes. So please vote for me, Quan Lee, and Rockville Forward. Thank you.
Thank you. James Hendrick?
Hi, again, I'm James Hedrick, running for Rockville City Council, in case that wasn't clear. I'm a civil servant and a father of 2, as I mentioned before. The reason I'm running for the City Council right now is I want to help create a hometown that my 2 kids can be proud of. They're going to grow up here. They're going to live here for a long time. I've got 26 kid years left in the MCPS system. All right, I want to make this the best hometown it can be for them, where they can live, work, and play. Part of that, I have a background professionally in economic development and affordable housing. I've been doing it for more than a decade now. I've gone literally from Puerto Rico all the way to Alaska helping cities, and it's always been on the side of the cities, just like Rockville, to bring jobs and to bring affordable housing into their communities. I want to do more of that here in Rockville. I've got that professional background. I've got the civic background. I've been a member of the Twinbrook Community Association's Executive Committee for several years. I've been on the board of Rockville Housing Enterprises, trying to bring affordable housing to our community. I've been on the Boards and Commissions Task Force with the City of Rockville, trying to bring our boards and commissions, modernize them, bring them in the 21st century, and let them sort of represent the diversity and the inclusion that we have here in this city. So I'm James. That's a little bit of my background. That's what some of the things that I want to do. If you want to find me online, you can just Google it. It's fine, James Hedrick. You can find me there. But I want to help bring jobs and housing affordability to the city, and I appreciate your vote. Thanks.
Thank you. Monique Ashton?
This election is about the future of Rockville, and you have some important decisions to make. I hope what you've heard tonight and read in our literature helps you to learn more about us. I bring to you something I think is unique in terms of business experience, in terms of community experience, and public service. And I look forward to bringing all those skills to support our city. Leadership is part of my DNA, but service is my passion. I'm not here for me, I'm here for you. And I want to build a better and brighter Rockville. I will work tirelessly to support our communities, protect our schools, and think towards the future of Rockville. I will support smart growth, one that thinks about who we are and what is our character, but one that allows us to grow for the future. I do believe in strong senior services. I think that there are many seniors that I've talked to on this campaign trail who are afraid of not being able to stay in their homes. I do want to support increasing and looking at our senior tax credit because the property values in Rockville have gone up and our seniors are getting squeezed. I also want to make sure that as we look at our services that we're expanding them beyond the senior center but looking in other places we need to bring them. I want to represent working families, and I want to make sure that our schools are premier. A lot of people move here for our schools, and they're not just the county's job. It's all of our jobs. And when our schools are suffering, we all suffer. Our future suffers. I want to take a proactive approach to economic development and look at what are the businesses that we need to attract and retain. I also want to make sure that as we grow as a city, we're now at least 70,000, we believe, that we go back and look at our infrastructure. I know that's not the most popular topic, but we do need to make sure that we protect and support our infrastructure. And I will also make sure that we support inclusive engagement. I've worked tirelessly on equity issues for seniors, for communities who have been disabled, as well as minorities, and I will bring that as a priority as well.
Thank you. Richard Gottfried?
Hi, my name is Richard Gottfried. I'd personally like to thank the City of Rockville residents for supporting my previous candidacy for Rockville City Council in 2015. I hope to earn your vote again in the 2019 election. Why vote for Richard Gottfried? Richard has over 12 years of advocacy on major policy issues in the City of Rockville. It has been my honor to have represented and advocated for, 1, being on the board of Twinbrook Citizens Association for over 12 years as outreach chair, treasurer, and past president for 3 years. Richard was honored to form and lead the Twinbrook Parkway Coalition, saving taxpayers over $14 million for not building an office building on Broome Middle School. Richard was honored to save Rockville taxpayers over $8 million on their refuse and recycle bills. Richard was honored to protect home-based businesses from unlawful search and seizure without a warrant. Richard was honored to cultivate strategic partnerships with over 10 Rockville Civic Associations, the Executive and Council of Montgomery County, and the Board of Education and state legislators. Richard was honored to provide pro bono tax services for seniors, saving on their property tax bill. Richard was honored being on the MSAT board as second vice president, strategic planning chair, young professionals chair. Richard was honored advocating against the bus depot being moved to Rockville. Richard was honored to advocate for the rehabilitation of Evanston Drive Bridge through completion. Richard was honored strengthening neighborhood civic partnerships with the PTAs from Twinbrook Elementary, Meadow Hall Elementary, Rockville High School, the Twinbrook Library, and the Twinbrook Pool. Richard was honored to receive the Good Neighbor Award by the Rockville Mayor and Council. And I would be honored to be your next Rockville City Councilman. For step-by-step easy instructions on how to vote, please visit my website, votegodfrey.com. My name is Richard Gottfried, and I am a candidate for Rockville City Council.
Thank you. Okay. Now this really does conclude the part 1 of our candidate forum. Coming up next, we will have the remaining 7 council candidates on the stage. As we take a break to prepare, here are some election news from Rockville 11.
What is vote by mail? How do I register? Is the voting system secure? Many of you may have asked questions like these about this year's vote by mail election. The Board of Supervisors of Elections are working to make sure you are in the know before, during, and even after you cast your ballot. Head to rockvillemd.gov/election and click on View Frequently Asked Questions. And to be even more informed, you can also sign up to receive election alerts and reminders by texting Rock Votes to 888-777. Rockville will make history and conduct the first vote-by-mail election in Maryland on November 5th. Rockville's historic vote-by-mail election is just around the corner. Ballots will be mailed to registered voters on or before October 11th. And we want to make sure Rockville voters know that there is not just one way to cast your ballot, by mail. Once you received your ballot, select one candidate for mayor and 4 candidates for council. Place the completed ballot in the prepaid envelope and drop it in the mail. Bring it to the drop box. You can also drop off your completed ballot 24/7 in the secured drop box located at City Hall. Bring your ballot to the vote center. On Election Day, you can bring your ballot to the only vote center here at City Hall and fill your ballot out in person. Remember, ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 5th, and postmarks will not be counted. For more information on Rockville's vote-by-mail election, head to rockvillemd.gov/election.
Welcome back to Rockville 11's final televised candidate forum hosted by the Twinbrook Village in association with the Twinbrook Community Association. I'm your moderator, Angela Fox. Again, audience, I ask that you hold your applause until the end and please silence your cell phones. We have heard from 6 council candidates. Now it's time to hear from the remaining Senate candidates. Let's please welcome, in alphabetical order, Donald Masters, Brigitte Malkin, David Miles, Matthew Perkins, Mark Pachella, hopefully I said that right, Susan Pittman, and Charles Littlefield. Now we are going to have opening statements. In the order that's already predetermined before, we will start with Suzanne Pittman.
Good evening, and a shout out to the Nats. One more to go. I'm Susan Pittman. I'm running for City Council to ensure that the needs and aspirations of the people of Rockville are listened to, respected, and implemented. We're facing some important issues as we continue to grow. What will our city look like, and how will we welcome new neighbors? What steps must we take to protect our environment, especially our tree canopy and our watersheds? What will we do to go beyond the diversity we are all rightly proud of and become a truly inclusive community? And how will we ensure our children can continue to receive a world-class education now while we work with the county and state to secure top-notch schools for future generations? Through my community and professional leadership, I have demonstrated record of working effectively with diverse stakeholders, from neighbors and other community leaders to city staff and council to our local and prospective business owners on projects and initiatives that enhance our quality of life and elevate our shared experiences.
Thank you. Matthew Perkins.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm Matt Perkins. I'm a neighbor on Midway in Twinbrook. I've first moved to Rockville in 1999, lived in the West End, now live in Twinbrook. Worked 25 years all across the country in some of the toughest neighborhoods we have, and seen how cities succeed and how cities fail, and learn lessons from those failures. I want to bring that education and those lessons to Rockville. I learned just as much, however, as a volunteer coach in Rockville for over 15 years, volunteering for the city in this gym, for MSI, and at Richard Montgomery High School, and learning the power of community and power of connection. Thank you.
Thank you. David Miles.
Good evening. My name is David Miles. Service is the underlying principle guiding my personal and professional life, and is the reason I'm running to serve you on Rockville City Council. Service is the reason I chose to complete my pediatric training in Baltimore at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and from there to go on to serve 3 years active duty in the United States Navy. Serving the most vulnerable is the reason I joined the PTSA at Julius West, the Mental Health Advisory Committee at the county level, and Rockville's opioid awareness effort, termed Rockville Goes Purple. Again, my name is David Miles. I'm running in this race, and I'm hoping to earn your vote this November. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brigitte Malkin?
Hello, Rockville. Thank you, friends, for coming tonight. It's a great crowd here. I've been walking the streets for 3 months, covered 250 streets so far. I am Brigitte Mulligan. I love Rockville. It has been my home for 54 years. I've lived the issues and through those challenges have the experience to serve on the City Council. I have known the past 10 city mayor and councils and have worked with many city managers. I served on the Rockville Planning Commission for 7 years, the Board of Supervisors of Election for 3 years. I was on the Rockville Sister City Task Force many years ago. I formulated and executed large budgets during my 36-year career with the federal government. Fair representation is what I stand for. We should expand the City Council so that more neighborhoods have representation. It is time to right-size our city government, scrutinize the budget with more oversight, identify duplications of county services. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Pashela? Hopefully I said the last name correctly.
Mark Pashela.
Pashela, thank you.
Thank you. I'm the guy on the bike. I bike every street in Rockville 4 times. I've walked every street in Rockville once. That was over 200 walking trips. I can pronounce Twinbrook as the twistiest, turniest neighborhood in the city by far. I have been on the council for 8 years. I bring budgetary, economic, and environmental sense to the council. I am a businessman. I was in the Peace Corps. I am an environmentalist. Those things are not contradictory. I make them all work. I was the first champion of the Twinbrook Quarter Project, and I showed how it was an investment in your community, how it would produce more revenue for school construction than students that would take it up. And I hope I get the question about the trees, because I can knock that one down pretty well. It's an environmental win-win-win-win-win-win development for all of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Masters?
Greetings. I believe the council needs a vision to see a bigger view of the importance of the city in the local economy and to solve some of the problems and issues that just don't seem to go away. In the 4 years we've been living in East Rockville, I have not seen some of the hard issues resolved, and that is one of the main reasons I'm running. I'm hoping that we have a chance to share with you this evening our opinions, our different opinions, ideas, and approaches, and that will show why I'm a better candidate as an independent. As I've traveled the city in this campaign, I've been surprised by the wealth of knowledge and ideas that residents have to offer. Each neighborhood has a unique character that residents really cherish. Please come talk to me at the end to share your concerns and ideas for Twinbrook and the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Littlefield?
Hi, my name is Charles Littlefield. For the last 7 years, I have served on the City of Rockville's Planning Commission. As a planning commissioner, I am already playing a role in the city's future by guiding the drafting of our new 2040 master plan. I am up to date and engaged on the issues we currently face, have received and analyzed input from hundreds of citizens, and know what actions are needed. Some of these key actions include managing growth and development in a way that maintains our quality of life and leaves no resident feeling excluded, being more proactive in supporting Rockville Town Center by immediately pursuing key action items, especially those that address parking, retail, density, and street design, applying the lessons learned in the Town Center to help other areas in the city, such as Rockville Pike and the new development around the Twinbrook Metro, protecting Redgate Golf Course by declaring it a city-owned park with a variety of new recreational, environmental, civic, and other beneficial uses available to all the people of Rockville, not just a lucky few. Investing in a bridge or tunnel across Rockville Pike near the Twinbrook Metro Station so that people's lives are not at risk when crossing the street. And lastly, we need to improve our city's governance and better reflect our city's diversity by immediately expanding the size of our city council from 4 members to 6, or perhaps even 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes our opening statements. Now to the questions. Again, the questions will not be repeated for each individual candidate, so please take notes. The first question is, what is your opinion on accessory dwelling units as a mechanism to address the lack of low-cost housing options for all demographics? Number one is Suzanne, demographics. The first one is Suzanne Pittman.
Susan Pittman.
Susan, okay.
I am a big believer in accessory dwelling units. Several years ago, when the city staff came to us and started to rework our neighborhood plan, there was a lot of grumbling about accessory dwelling units, and an older neighbor said, gee, I sure love living here in East Rockville, and I don't want to leave my home. Wouldn't it be nice if I could live in one of your backyards or on my property and rent my house out to someone else? And it stopped the room. And we really started to engage in the conversation about ADUs. Our neighborhood plan draft includes ADUs. I believe that it needs to be a citywide initiative, but I also believe that every neighborhood in the city deserves the same opportunity East Rockville had to talk about what they're going to look like and what they're going to be used for. That was a wonderful conversation in East Rockville that needs to be extended to each neighborhood. ADUs become important in building community. It's a way to have someone who is perhaps at the very beginning or the very end of their career have a home-like atmosphere in which to live and enjoy a neighborhood. And this is something I'm very much in support of. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Perkins?
Yeah, I think affordable housing is one of the biggest challenges we face in the city and in the region. I also support ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units. I trust my neighbors to make good decisions about enhancing their properties. And I don't want to discount people's concerns about landlords who will take advantage of that. I've seen firsthand what problem landlords can do to a neighborhood, but we have plenty of tools available at the municipal level to deal with that, such as code enforcement. I'd also like to see a part of Redgate Golf Course used for mixed income housing. I'd like to see about 75% of the park set aside as parkland, most of it undeveloped. But I think the city should look to work with a nonprofit developer to build the type of housing the city needs on part of the property. And I think also in addressing affordable housing and the types of housing that have come to the city, we need to be very conscious not to just put 20-something and 30-somethings in boxes on Rockville Pike or next to metro stations. The city needs to be very active in making sure that people going into these new types of buildings have the resources and facilities they need to become full-fledged members of the cities, like pocket parks nearby. Thank you.
Thank you. David Miles?
I take a step back. I think ADUs can be helpful, but I find it problematic that we're having this discussion in Twinbrook, a community that was created for veterans who came home from World War II, veterans like my grandfather. Now we're talking about, solving some of our affordability crisis in part by creating many houses. I think it certainly is a solution to certain problems, certain challenges that some people have. I have a mother that would like to live with us at some point, and the stairs are hard for me, so perhaps doing something on that scale might be a benefit. But I think what it will take each property owner to actually apply for and get it approved will be a bit tricky, and I probably won't be able to do it myself. But again, talking about affordability more broadly, that I even, as a veteran myself, had trouble finding housing here that I could afford, speaks to a bigger issue. I think ADUs could be part of that solution, really beefing up our MPDU, or moderately priced dwelling unit ordinance, to keep developers from paying a fee in lieu of creating the affordable housing. And then just, part of the reason housing is so expensive is that there's not the supply. So the Twinbrook Quarter project is one also big part of that solution. You increase supply and hopefully will reduce prices and make it a little more affordable for not just veterans, but working families, seniors as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Brigadier Malkin?
ADUs has been in the news recently with the county, and it's been a very controversial issue. It is not the solution to affordable housing. It is not. I will say one thing about the process in Rockville. It has worked well. When I was on the Planning Commission for 7 years, we only had 3 requests 2 of them were approved, 1 of them was not. The City of Rockville has good controls with zoning as to what is allowed, because you need to have enough parking spaces, and you have to have space, as David said, in a lot of our lots here in Twinbrook, you cannot have an ADU. It's just not possible. And there have been real big issues. I don't think that's the solution. I'm in support of what the city does. I'm very happy to continue what that is, and I'm very happy that it's not like the zoning that, and all the changes that were done at the county level, because I had some people, when I went door to door, asked me about this, and they said, I didn't even know they were changing that. How could that happen? And that's a problem with a lot of changes that the council makes. People just don't know what's happening, and then later they're upset about it. So I'm happy to say that we don't have the county issue in Rockville.
Thank you. Donald Masters?
I would like to take a wait-and-see attitude. The ADUs have been approved in Montgomery County, they've been approved in D.C. Let's see how it works out. My issue is that anytime that money is involved for somebody to make money on something, there are going to be people that are going to abuse it. There was some discussion in committee when this was talked about. What do you do if somebody puts in an ADU and it's a high-end rental? So the rental income doesn't fit with what we're looking for. How do you enforce something on private property? If we're gonna look at alternative housing, there are a lot of ideas that are being implemented or tried in other parts of the country, out west mainly. I would like to use that as an example to see if we can get affordable housing that way.
Thank you. Charles Littlefield?
Thanks. That's a good question on accessory dwelling units. I'll answer it in 2 parts. First, how would I approach it if I were on the city council? First of all, it's been touched on by a few of my colleagues here. There's no one-size-fits-all. If we're going to do this, we need to consult deeply with every neighborhood that wants to do it, and we need to make sure that no group in that neighborhood is completely excluded. We don't need any group to completely win or completely lose on this issue. If there's a split opinion, we need to find that middle ground, and we definitely don't need to impose on another neighborhood what one neighborhood thinks is right for itself. That's how I would act if I was on the city council. My personal opinion on it, and this would certainly bear on that role as well, is that I'm in favor of it, and I definitely think it's a good solution for affordable housing. I know word of mouth, talking to people in my neighborhood, a rent for one of those is $700 or $800 a month. Find me an apartment in this city that costs that much. You cannot. So it is very affordable compared to those options. I also think that one thing I like about it is that money goes to the homeowner. And in some cases, those homeowners are seniors that have no income other than their Social Security or their 401k. That extra income can keep them in their house. So I like that about it. We do have some caveats. If we do this, we need to make sure we protect the tree canopy. We need good enforcement. And lastly, we need to look at parking. This might need to also have parking permits because residents have complained about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. For a second question. Oh, sorry. Please go ahead.
Yes, Mark Bershela.
Excuse me.
You're going to talk about housing affordability. Let's first realize that 90% or more of housing is provided by the private sector, and that government programs like moderately priced dwelling units and deeply subsidized housing only account for 5 to 10% of our units. If you want to talk about housing affordability, you have to talk about big numbers. How do you know when you have enough apartments? It's when the rents stabilize or even go down. It's when the housing prices stabilize or go down. We're not making room for our own children. This is why I support smart growth. Because it takes asphalt, these decrepit shopping centers, and it makes great homes for people near transit. That's what it does. I was one of those who supported Fireside Park Apartments. That's the self-sufficient, self-funding way to prove that we have provided commercially affordable housing for people. You have to connect the dots. If we don't have people living here, what do? They encroach on neighborhoods. How about the white elephant in East Rockville? We get these ad hoc boarding houses in the neighborhoods because we don't have enough official housing. How about this widening I-270? People are going north to live. That's where they can afford. And then we have to fight these 16 lanes that the governor wants to put in. So let's put it right near Metro and lots of units. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, second question. Twinbrook has a large new immigrant population. Under what circumstances, if any, would you advise Rockville Police to cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE? Okay. Susan?
Yes, thank you. Our large immigrant population makes this a great place to live. We have the Fostering Community Trust Act in place that helps to protect our immigrant population. We cannot stop federal law enforcement from coming into our city, but we can certainly reach out to our immigrant population, offer them safety, security, and welcome. If there is a violent crime committed, we should help solve that crime and bring justice for the victim of that crime. In every other circumstance, our immigrants are members of our community, and we need to offer them a welcome. If possible, help them to attain proper status so that they no longer have to worry about any law enforcement official coming in and disrupting their lives. Thank you.
Matthew Perkins?
Yeah, so this is not a conversation I come to recently. I've worked with police departments for over 2 decades across the country. And commonly throughout my career, police departments have expressed very, very clearly that they don't want to be associated with immigration because people won't call. If you want to hand a boon to organizations like MS-13 or human traffickers, make people afraid to call the police. That doesn't mean there are no federal resources or allies available to our local police departments. They're free to pick up the phone, call the U.S. Attorney's Office, call task forces, call the FBI, call the DEA. This is a very specific subject. Throughout my career, I think the city is in line with what I've seen from law enforcement executives as their wishes at the local level. Thank you.
David Miles?
I certainly know my lane on this one. I'm not a law officer. I work as a pediatrician. I was in the Navy. So I'm not the one to determine what crimes should be reported versus not. My gut tells me things like rape, murder should. But I want to take a step back and just put the facts on the table. People who immigrate here commit crimes at lower rates than people born here. People who immigrate aren't shooting up our schools. They're not lighting up our streets in Baltimore, where I used to live, or Chicago, where I was born. So we do want to foster a sense of safety and stability, no different from people who show up pregnant. I never ask them for, their passport or if they can pay. I take care of the patient. And that's what police officers here are trying to do. They want to make sure that people are safe first, and then fight the crimes as they see fit. And again, I have to defer to police on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Brigadier Malkin?
If there's anything that divides the 13 council candidates from this subject, and that's me, I am an immigrant, and I object when the county constantly lumps all immigrants together. I'm against illegal immigrants. If they've served a crime, I believe that we should work with the federal enforcement. I should be cooperated with. When those 9 rapes took place and I was going door to door, everyone would say to me, Brigida, what is your position on this? And I said, I have a real problem with not cooperating with the federal government. I was brought up to believe in law and order. And again, we need to separate illegal aliens from immigrants like myself. If you're legally here, you came through the process. You didn't just go across the line.
I have a problem. Now, I'm not saying that I want ICE to go pick up everybody. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about these illegal immigrants who commit crime and they're put back out on the street. That means that the immigrants that are here illegally are the victims, because they're not going to report anything if they go back out and do crime. So I have to just tell you that I am against the way this county is enforcing it, and I know Rockville is doing the same thing. They really don't get involved.
Thank you. Mark Pacello?
Yes. I was one of 3 people who voted for the Fostering Community Trust Ordinance. That was a very controversial issue, and I supported it strongly. Basically, it says that no city resources will be used to enforce federal law. It is meant for all of our residents, legal or illegal immigrants, if they are victims, they can get help. And they can get help and not be asked about the immigration status. I'm very proud of that vote. But let me also say that it does not declare Rockville a sanctuary city, because there's no such thing. I told them to strip that out of it, otherwise I wouldn't have voted for it. The federal government can come in anytime they want. I will say that the law gives the police the discretion to call in federal resources if they wish, and they did this one time. When there's a trafficking case on North Washington, they called in federal help, but that was their discretion. It wasn't a political decision. I'm strongly supportive of immigrant rights. My wife is a legal immigrant, and if you don't have that trust in a community, it makes it very, very difficult for the police to do their job. So, I think there have been occasions, or can be occasions, where the federals are called in, but that's very rare, and it's all a police discretion. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Masters?
I believe that the residents that live here, we need, like Mark said, to let them know that they're safe from just people coming in to their homes. But I think if somebody commits a crime to where the police feel it's an unsafe person, that person needs to be dealt with appropriately. And I think that it's not my place to make that decision. It's the decision of the police department. We've got a good with police department, and they should be the one to make the decision. It's just a difficult time we have now with everything going on with children at the border, and I'm just really have a hard time with what's going on with that.
Okay, thank you. Charles Littlefield?
Thank you. I consider myself pro-immigrant. Like Councilmember Pierce-Shayla, my wife is also an immigrant from Latin America, and that is a culture that I know very well and that I admire. With respect to cooperating with ICE, I will confess I am not an expert on that situation and what's going on, as well as the so-called sanctuary city laws. I don't, at face value, have a problem with the ordinance that Rockville passed. But I don't think it is the main issue here in Rockville at the moment. And I will say that I talk to immigrants here in Rockville quite often, and I can tell you that they are more like us than we would think. They have other issues that are important to them, the same issues that we consider important to ourselves, such as affordable housing, finding good paying jobs, parking. And on parking, I will note, that's one thing we need to open our minds at. I know a lot of people going door to door have complained about parking, that sometimes immigrants who are hardworking and entrepreneurs have big trucks, food trucks, contractor trucks, whatever. They have those for a reason. They're not there to annoy people. Those are things we need to look at. I would also recommend that we consider having some type of forum on whether or not they should be able to vote in our local elections. Tacoma Park does that. And I'm not saying we should, but we should at least discuss it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the questions. Now we will do closing statements in the same order. Okay. Susan?
One thing I've learned from Rockville residents through my community leadership is that we all love our city and want Rockville to continue to be the place we choose to call home. At the beginning of this campaign, I wrote of development that it's not about the buildings, it's about the people in the buildings. It's about those locked out of opportunities because our measure of success is how many units built, not how many lives made better, and it's about doing everything we can to elevate our shared experiences and quality of life. When I was elected president of the East Rockville Civic Association, the 2004 neighborhood plan had been on a shelf for a decade with little to no implementation, and it needed a champion. On behalf of the neighborhood, I reached out to city staff and restarted the planning process. 4 years later, the Stone Street plan, which was part of our neighborhood plan at one point, stands on its own, and we are closing in on the city's first set of neighborhood design guidelines, in addition to being well on our way to a neighborhood plan that promises to maintain our vibrant community for the next generation. We got done in 4 years what had not been accomplished in almost 2 decades. It took a willingness to listen and learn, hard work, and a deep commitment to working effectively with diverse stakeholders. It was about the people, not the buildings, but in the end, we honored both. In addition to leading East Rockville, I've served on the board of directors of Peerless Rockville, and I'm a current member of the Pedestrian Advocacy Program committee. I also served as a featured speaker in the Rockville University. I am also a member of the Recreation and Parks Community Leader Panel for their strategic plan update. Professionally, I'm the operations director at a nonprofit with the mission of advancing ethics and leadership in oral health care. As your council member, we'll work together to right-size the 2040 plan for Twinbrook and every other neighborhood in the city, fiercely advocate for our kids in schools, and face the challenges we have now and plan for the ones we'll be facing in the future with pragmatic, practical, and innovative solutions that enhance our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Perkins?
Thank you. As this is our last forum, I just want to kind of remind everybody of my priorities as candidate for Rockville City Council. The idea that we're in it together. In the time I've lived in Rockville, I never really knew who my representative in city government was, and I want to answer that question for people. I want to be that person. I want everybody to feel that they have a stake in city government and a way to contribute. I'm also concerned about what I call Rockville 100, the fact that in 20 to 25 years, 100,000 people will be living in Rockville, and we need to prepare right now to build the infrastructure for a city of that size and with that density, including making sure that we all have access to walkable, bikeable infrastructure. I want to focus on green governance. We don't hear much about climate change in these forums. Maybe it's due to the audience not being as young. Climate change should be a factor that gets taken in making every city decision. Equity and opportunity, right? Making sure, for example, that small businesses are more of a focus of city efforts when we're talking about economic development. And equity, judging ourselves as a city by outcomes, being data and results oriented. Also, one of my platforms, I call There's an App for That. It's simple, it's small ball, but the city should develop an app for city services. Allow you to get notifications for things that are happening near you if you opt in, and allow you to report issues to the city at the press of a button. I hope you check out my social media, Matt4, that's number 4, Rockville, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all my fellow candidates for their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. David Miles?
As I've mentioned to the thousands of candidates I've met thus far while canvassing, I'm running for Rockville for the same 3 reasons I moved here. First, we moved here for the schools. We have a 15-month-old, and I do want to make sure that she has the same educational experience that people like Brigitte, who are longtime residents, had years ago. To do that, we need to make sure that our mayor and council is working even closer with our county council and school board so that our schools have the resources they need so that kids can thrive. Second, we like being able to walk to places like the parks that are conveniently located throughout the city. But we found that some of the parks are difficult to access in a car, much less on foot or in a stroller. So I do want to work to make sure that street safety is a priority for everybody, not just street safety, but accessibility as well. Third, I do want to improve housing affordability. These great schools, these great parks come at a price. And for people like me, as I mentioned previously, it's tough to afford to live here. Veterans, young families, working professionals, and seniors. I certainly want to address that from the standpoint of mayor and council as well, as a city council member that is. In summary, I want to earn your trust and vote so that we can make a Rockville that works for everybody, the seniors and the students, the bicyclists and those who drive, the longtime residents, and our new neighbors. My name is David Miles. I thank you for your time. Please cast your ballot for me and others by November 5th, 2019.
Thank you. Brigadier Malkin?
I want to tell you how I am different from the other candidates. If you candidates do not have the longevity, I have been involved in the Rockville City government for 37 years, and this does translate my experience in identifying the issues which are important to you, the residents, and I've been hearing a lot of that going to all the streets that I visited. I will bring an independent voice to the council. Slates create a voting bloc. We have seen that with the past council. There is a lot of talk about inclusion, but what about a different opinion? I don't find it being welcomed sometimes. As a naturalized citizen, I want to be the first foreign-born on the city council. I came to America when I was 7 years old. I know the hardships of not speaking English and having parents work and not be at the home. I support Governor Hogan's plan to help alleviate congestions on 270. There is no proof that Rockville property will be taken. There has been several plans considered, so let's not jump the gun. We need to have real facts. Can you imagine what Rockville Pike would be like today if Interstate 270 was not built? I was here before it was built. Rockville needs to stay positive and work to get federal and state funds for regional transportation needs. We also need to work closely with Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority so our Twinbrook and Rockville stations are as nice as some of the other ones on the red line. Together, we can make Rockville better. Please vote for Brigida Mulligan, and you can have all my answers that all of these candidates had to ask for Bethesda Magazine and the Twinbrook Community Association questions. They're online for you all to check us all out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Paschella?
My name is Mark Paschella. I have been a city council member for 8 years. I'm one of those who observe how things work, and when they don't work, I propose solutions. I'm the one who observed that the adequate public facilities ordinance actually works against its stated goals. It reduces resources for school construction, but it can be repaired. And I'm the one who said, let's use the adequate public facilities ordinance around Twinbrook Metro and around Town Center to focus our growth in those high transit areas in order to reduce growth in other parts of the city. That's the way to make the APFO work for us instead of a one-size-fits-all. I think we have to start connecting the dots. What has gotten me most perturbed over 8 years is that we're not making room for our own children. They can't afford to live here as young adults, but we also must include teachers, firefighters, policemen, nurses, veterans. Can't afford to live here. That's a big problem. The impact fees from these developments around transit more than pay for their way with school construction. We have 2 neighborhoods I can think off the top of my head that had we had APFO restrictions in at the time would not even be here. King Farm, forget it, it'd still be cornfields. Falls Grove, the same thing. These are great neighborhoods that have contributed to our city in many, many, many positive ways. But had we said, you can't come in because you're going to overcrowd College Gardens Elementary or Julius West or Richard Montgomery, they wouldn't be here. So we have to think of the total picture. And we get much more positive outcomes when we have well-planned, great neighborhoods that come in. And yes, we do have to advocate for school construction, but we'll cover that later. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Donald Masters?
I'm running for council because I want to solve the ongoing problems facing the city and bring sensible decision-making to the council. As discussed in an earlier question, I'm an independent and an independent thinker. I've been a part of a union negotiating team and will be a collegial member of council. Twinbrook is one of the larger neighborhoods in the city and suffers from some unique issues caused by through traffic on the state roads that surround it, the county to the south, and their potential development plans and the development area around the metro station. Thankfully, you have a strong and dedicated community, and I'm looking forward to further discussions with the community if I am granted the opportunity to be one of your council members. As a resident of East Rockville, with the education, career, professional skills, volunteer experiences I've received, I'm prepared to take on the issues such as environmental sustainability that confront the city and come before the council. I'm dedicated to making the difficult decisions, and I promise to be your voice on the council. You've heard our answers to questions tonight and hopefully read our answers to the thought-provoking questions posted by your association. I hope I've earned your trust and your faith in my judgment and your vote in this election. If you have any ideas, concerns, questions, please visit my website, masters4rockville.com. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you, and my thanks to Twinbrook Village and the association for their dedication to bring these important issues and ideas to the forefront in this election.
Thank you. Charles Littlefield?
Thanks. I moved to the D.C. area in 2002 from Argentina to attend grad school. In Argentina, I worked for an oil company, but my ambition changed in the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks. I decided that I wanted a career helping people in foreign countries and improving America's image in the world. That ambition became reality, and I now have 17 years of experience working in international development. I currently work at a large nonprofit whose mission is to improve the lives of children. I am the Senior Manager of Finance, Pricing, and Analytics. I am responsible for setting our budgeting policies, ensuring that budgeting is done correctly, and using my background in economics and data analysis to forecast, monitor, and maximize our organizational revenues. My career has allowed me to travel to over 30 countries and live 7 years abroad, including 3 years in Guatemala, where I was tasked with creating and implementing a program to help mayors and town council members find new ways to improve their local economies and communicate better with the people they were chosen to represent. I recall a piece of advice given to me by a colleague before moving to Guatemala. You will know you are doing your job when you are alone, one-on-one, with the person you are helping, and they turn to you for advice in their greatest moment of doubt. I was fortunate to experience many such moments in the indigenous highlands of Guatemala, with mayors afraid that one misstep could result in a mob of torch-carrying townspeople in front of their house the very next day. Though Guatemala and such developing countries are a world away, the lessons I learned are equally valuable here in Rockville. 1, never take your finger off the pulse of the people. And 2, good ideas, teamwork, and resolve are far more valuable than money when it comes to problem solving. Ultimately, the experiences I had working hand-in-hand with mayors and town council members in Guatemala is what inspired me 10 years ago to get involved here in the city of Rockville. I stand here before you tonight as an independent candidate, not part of any slate, not in need of anyone to tell me how I should vote on any issue, nor beholden or accountable to anyone other than you, the voters of Rockville. If you vote for me, Charles Littlefield, I promise I will not let you down.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So this concludes the council candidates portion of tonight's forum. Up next, we will hear from the mayoral candidates. As we take a quick break to prepare, here are some election news from Rockville 11.
Rockville will make history in 2019 and become the first city in Maryland to conduct a vote-by-mail election. and Rockville's Board of Supervisors of Elections has the task of ensuring that voters have confidence in this new process. The BSE is a 5-member body appointed by the mayor and council. They are charged with conducting all city elections and stands by its mission to conduct fair and open elections that are safe and secure, protect the integrity of your vote, and maintain a transparent, accurate, and efficient election process. The Board of Supervisors of Elections wants Rockville voters to rest assured that the vote-by-mail process will be easy, convenient, safe, and secure for this year's election and for future elections. Rockville is preparing to make political history by conducting its first vote-by-mail election. And the City Clerk, Director of Council Operations, along with the Board of Supervisors of Elections, takes another step to make sure that this election is easy, convenient, safe, and secure. The 24/7 vote-by-mail drop box has been installed at Rockville City Hall. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. And this election, you can mail your ballot in, drop your ballot in the secure drop box, or you can even come to the Vote Center on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at City Hall. Ballots are being mailed to all registered Rockville voters between October 6th and 12th. If you don't register by the deadline, on Election Day, you can still register and vote at City Hall. For more information on the 2019 vote-by-mail election, head to rockvillemd.gov/election.
Welcome back to Rockville's 11 Final Televised Candidate Forum hosted by the Twinbrook Village in association with the Twinbrook Community Association. Hi, I'm your moderator, Angela Fox. Now it's time to hear from the mayoral candidates. Again, audience, I ask that you hold your applause until the end. And please silence your cell phones, or at least put them on vibrate. Just like the candidates for council, similar to the candidate for council, the candidates for mayor will give a 2-minute opening statement. Then the candidates will be asked 2 questions and will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And finally, each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute for closing statement. Now, please allow me to introduce your candidates for Rockville mayor. Remember, audience, please hold your applause. We have here the incumbent Bridget Donald Newton and the current council member Virginia Olney. And we will be going in that order. So to begin with opening statements, please, incumbent Bridget Donald Newton.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you for coming this evening, to Twinbrook neighbors and the Twinbrook Community Association for sponsoring tonight's debate. It's been my honor and privilege to serve our city for the past 10 years, 4 as a council member and 6 as mayor. I have learned a great deal, and I have had the privilege of representing the city, both in the city, at the county level, and at the state level. I was elected by my peers as MML, that's the Maryland Municipal League's president, for the year just passed, and prior to that, I served as chair of the Washington Metropolitan Region Transportation Planning Board. Both of those opportunities gave the city of Rockville a seat at the larger table for some of the bigger discussions. Justice Sonia Sotomayor recently wrote a children's book called Just Ask. I implore all of us to please ask the questions that we want the answers to, and don't just rely on what people say or what you're hearing and reading. It's very, very important, and there are some things out there as recently as last evening that have been posted that aren't true, and I really hope that you will take the time to dig into the details and give each of the candidates the opportunity to be clear and tell you the truth. Twinbrook Elementary. I have been a very strong supporter of Twinbrook Elementary since I ran for council in 2009. My quip then in my candidate's speech on Channel 11 was, Twinbrook Elementary doesn't need makeup, they need a full makeover. I was pointing to myself when I said makeup. I have strongly advocated at MCPS level and at the county level that Twinbrook Elementary get their school renovated. It was built in 1956. It's older than I am. And it's a travesty that we still have a school in our community that is not ADA compliant, that has children learning on the floor. It's just something that we will all need to come together and support, as we did for Bayard Rustin. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia Only?
Okay. I want to thank Twinbrook Villages and the Community Association for hosting us. I'm Virginia Onley, and I'm asking you to make me Rockville's next mayor, because we need a Rockville that thrives for everyone. Here's what's at stake in this election. You have a mayor who has voted every time against affordable housing. She voted no to allow Rockville Housing Enterprises to refinance fireside apartments to keep 236 homes affordable and pay the city back $1.7 million. I said yes. I have been that young single mother who could not afford housing. I was lucky. My father, Ambrose Hill, allowed me to move back home until I landed a job at IBM and could fly on my own. So I know what that feels like. She voted no to the Fostering Community Trust Act, which says no matter who you are, if you are a victim, you can go to our police. I said yes. She has left a gap in leadership on boards and commissions. We have openings unfilled from 2015. It's only since I have been raising this issue that she has started to appoint residents to boards and commissions. The record is clear. You need a mayor who will lead the city forward for all residents and not abstain from her responsibilities. I hope to lead your city as the next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Now for the first question. We'll be responding in the same order as well. First question. Some Twinbrook residents feel their neighborhood is being shortchanged when it comes to allocation of capital improvement funds. How would you go about setting priorities that address the concerns? Bridget Newton?
Thank you very much for the question. When I ran in 2009 and again in 11 and 13, there's a word, I'm forgetting it right now. Anyway, the distribution of funding throughout the city has been unequal, and it's one of the things that the mayor and council have worked strongly towards, is making sure that both sides of 355 and 270 are treated equally. Rockville is divided by 355, the metro, and 270, and it's incumbent upon all of us who serve on the mayor and council. We are not elected by districts. We are, all elected at large. We are elected to serve all of the people. I want to speak to a couple comments that were made. One about boards and commissions. It's been my privilege as mayor to nominate people to boards and commissions, and it's been my obligation to represent the entire city on those boards and commissions. That's geographic, racial, age, anything that you want to call a distinguishing factor. And I have worked very, very hard to do that in my nominations. Unfortunately, not all of the people I have put forward have been acceptable to the council, and therefore they have not been approved. Of late, we just, at our last meeting, appointed, I believe, 9 people. There were several people that I asked, that I put forward their names, and unfortunately, at least one council member to my left had not had time to review them, and therefore they did not come forward. In terms of affordable housing, I want to be clear. I support all kinds, a continuum of housing in the city, and that includes garden apartments. Fireside Park Apartments was organically occurring affordable housing. When I learned that what we were being told, that it was going to be bought by a developer and changed into luxury housing, wasn't the truth, I went back to the person and said, what's going on? They said, we want to keep it as affordable housing for the people who live there. We're not changing anything. Same with communities of trust. Rockville already had a very welcoming ordinance. By law, our police, or not by law, but by practice, our police did not ask questions. If there's a criminal in our midst, no matter what their country of origin, that will be dealt with by the police.
Thank you. Thank you. Virginia Only?
Okay, first of all, I want to answer the response on the, especially with the Trust Act. The record speaks for itself. The mayor voted no. Rockville Housing Enterprises, the mayor voted no. And it's a matter of public record. You can look at it for yourself. As far as some parts of the city not being represented and Twinbrook feeling neglected, I think that is a problem. We've had that issue for some time. But what we need to do is work closer with the areas who feel neglected so that we can deal with your problems, even if we have to make upgrades that we have to bond. So as mayor, I will be working very closely with communities to make sure that everybody gets a fair slice of the pie. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now for the second question. How do you intend to juggle competing priorities between economic growth and environmental sustainability?
I don't think they're competing priorities at all. In fact, I think a city that grows economically by being environmentally smart and sensitive is a city that will thrive. We need to do a better job in the city of going green. We have people who want to be on the Environment Commission who are bringing us electric vehicles. We have discussions about green roofs. We have discussions about more green space. What happens with Redgate Golf Course is a huge question in terms of the environment. Personally, I do not want to see housing on Redgate. It's not near any transit at all. It would be better served as an arboretum, an amphitheater, wild open space that people can walk and see the birds. We just received an email the other day. There are 105 species, different species of birds that have now been found on Redgate. It's one of the largest open spaces of open land in the area. I hope to be re-elected and help the city to go environmentally sustainable. We need to do so much more, and it will take all of us working together to see that that happens. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Virginia Only?
Okay. Well, I think we need to do a better job. We know of the global warming, and at one point we had a big push on solar panels in the city. And I'm not sure how we dropped the ball, but we need to make sure we pick that ball up and get it rolling again, because it's very important that we have a solar panel initiative. One of the things that probably why we dropped the ball is we haven't increased the number of council members since 1888. We need more representation because Rockville has become such a large city. It's very important that we have the necessary representation to represent the almost 70,000 people that we have here. And as mayor, that's one of the things that I will be pushing for. I tried to get a referendum on the ballot, but unfortunately, it died for 2-2 because I wanted to ask you residents whether you wanted more representation or not. That's one of the things that it's only 5 of us on the council, 4 of us now, so it's just going to take more people getting involved and pushing for the things that need to be done for our city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now for closing statements in the same order. Bridget Newton?
Wow, that went fast. I want to clear up a couple things. Team Rockville had the majority on the council for the last 6 years. If there were things that didn't get done, you need to look at that group. Secondly, I think one of the ways that we can help our city grow both economically and environmentally and with inclusiveness would be to increase our transit options. We can't all rely on the cars, and that is not helping us. I do not support Governor Hogan's plan on 270. I have tried very hard to get some other things discussed. I don't support tolling. It's regressive. It hurts the people who moved farther north to find homes that they could afford. It doesn't help us in terms of our environment either. There are other options out there that need to be thoroughly vetted by everyone, and they would add a great amount of diversity to our transportation modes, as well as potential hiker-biker paths underneath. In terms of housing, I said it earlier, we need a continuum of housing. I'd like to see the council tackle that issue. That includes everything from garden apartments, townhomes, condos, duplexes. My mother-in-law, and my husband is from Michigan, my mother-in-law lived in a duplex, 2 people in something that looked like a colonial from the outside. It might be a way for all of our neighborhoods to diversify the type of housing that we have. The Community of Trust Act, I want to be clear about this. Our police leadership asked us not to codify something that they were already doing in practice. My son is also a police officer. When a policeman asks me to do something, I generally do the right thing. They asked us not to do this for the safety of our immigrant population, and I listened and voted against the Community of Trust Act. Not because I don't want our immigrants to be safe, but because I do want them to be safe. Thank you very much, everyone. Please see my website. Ask me any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia Only?
Yes. I hope you've learned a little bit more about me and what I stand for. More importantly, I hope you can ask yourself the simple question: what kind of mayor do you want for Rockville? Are you looking for someone who is ready to lead, be upfront with you, and values your opinion? We need a mayor who champions increased participation and representation in the city, advocates for housing affordability for homeowners and renters, and welcomes all to our community. For 26 years, I've been a community leader in Rockville and been a part of positive change, even before I was a council member. My commitment to strengthening neighborhoods, fostering dialogue, and bringing out the best in all of us will move our city forward. I'm asking for your vote to work together to create a Rockville that isn't stalled by business as usual, but driven to be better. Together, we create new economic opportunities across the city. Together, we protect our communities from harmful development. Together, we can all have a voice. Together, we are Rockville. Please vote for me, Virginia Onley, for your next mayor of Rockville on November 5th. And I want to address, since I have a little bit more time, any of the votes that were in question here tonight or that I brought forward, it's a matter of public record. So you can look at the tape and see the conversation and how the votes went. Thank you. Please vote for me, Virginia Onley, on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today. That concludes our session.